I haven't been in the best of moods lately. Aside from Death and Request 2, all I've had to look forward to are people leaving me, other people having melodrama with harassers such as Kelly, and my projects taking far longer than it should have. That being said, Death and Request 2 is incredible, and despite everything, I still wholeheartedly recommend it. That being said, two things before we properly start. A, if you do not fall into these categories I'm about to criticize, then don't be offended over these words and just sit back, buy your refreshment of choice, and watch as I verbally eviscerate several groups and demographics of other people. B, like, share on the internet, subscribe, click the bell, and select all. Now that the greetings and formalities are over, I've got to give full transparency here. I hold grudges. A lot of them. For long periods of time, which become deep-seated resentments. Normally, I internalize my issues with people because of the fact that people don't like to be called out for their childish bullshit. However, I decided to make this video the pilot video to get all of my negativity expressed and out in the open. I've had enough of your weep shit, and if you're offended by the words I say, then maybe that's the small part of your brain telling you not to do these things. As I see it, this long, massive amounts of call-out is actually a pretty humanitarian thing to do, because it finally forces you to choke on all the ills you've all brought. Referring, of course, to those here who do get offended. If you're not offended and don't fit into these categories of people I'm about to mention, then clearly you're doing something right. So let's start with the general status quo of my channel. Calling out the Compile Heart fanbase. Man, oh man, are there a large portion of people to call out here. To the point where there's subdivisions of this fanbase I must separate into because the autism is real. A few general complaints. First, why the fuck does anybody even bother to watch IFI streams? I mean, most, if not all, of us are here for the free giveaways. I couldn't give a damn about Rob Dizzle or Zayn Dragon. They're cringeworthy at best, cheap company PR at worst. Which is fine, that's their job. The problem I have with the fanbase in this regard is that they're supporting a company that makes money by taking money that should go to Compile Heart in their own Japanese branch for themselves. These people do very little, aside from translation and maybe overseeing the dub process. Honestly, overseers deserve jack shit for pay. Most of that money should be going directly to the developer, not the damn distributor. Why do you people support this? This question is more of a facetious exclamation than an actual question, as this is purely rhetorical. It's our addiction. We must know what goes on in the story of our fictional medium so much that we basically endorse the actions of a privateer. Speaking of which, I will get to the whole privateer bit with a certain other demographic, so keep that in the back of your noggin. We support the actions of a privateer distributor that shouldn't be taking our money because we're too fucking lazy to bother to learn Japanese. For people who only play Compile Heart games dubbed, why do you even bother to support this company? There hasn't been a proper fully dubbed game since ever. Waiting around for the day it gets fully dubbed. It's most likely not going to happen, considering how much ludicrous pay amounts English dubbers demand for work generally inferior of quality to that of Japanese seiyus. I don't mind a dub here and there. Some I even prefer. Last Exile, Devil May Cry, Monster, Bobobo, Ruby, just to name a few. You know what these series had? Fully dubbed content. Good fucking luck finding that in a Compile Heart game. This is not really malice of criticism for this section, just setting the stage for a much larger issue. The entire fanbase's mentality. It's entirely immature. Pretty much people who aren't doing YouTubing with this kind of stuff. People like Arcryam, or Hawk20, or my own crew. People who actually dedicate the time to their craft and proper expression for the content they like, those people are generally the only exception to this rule. Except in one scenario, but that'll be addressed in a different issue. Those who don't put in any work and only try to win free stuff for nothing other than to win something for free disgust me. People like me, who have been overlooked despite my accomplishments, should be the kind of people to be qualified to enter these contests. I would rather have Methreel win every singular contest than to let anyone who thinks, I see you're a man of culture, is a gendered phrase, and is anything other than a meme describing weebs with no culture as culture, win. At least Methreel made his own fan game. At least people like rCry100 bust his ass, making NEP videos for your enjoyment. What do all the fake quote-unquote NEP characters bring to the table? That person I mentioned on that one stream, that hardcore left libtard, done anything of interest or value to the fan base. Oh, by the way, and I'll get to the whole politics thing when I debase another group. Which brings me to my next issue and my main one. This nonsensical, you're too negative critique. For a while now, I have been given this false, you're too negative critique. Whether it's from people who mean well, like Kelly, who only pointed it out for the sake of helping me, but had terrible timing, or people like Grim Nepper. Nobody has earned the right to make this critique. Grim did it because he thought I was too negative, even though he himself is just as much of a bitter and jaded asshole as me, if not more. Not to mention he'll hang around people who place libel and slander, such as, quote-unquote, you're toxic, without proper justification, just because I need an actual justification instead of a surface-level answer. He'll also hang around people like King J, who will accuse someone like me of being responsible for someone's suicide, just because I valued them highly like family, ignoring the fact that the term family is my own form of trying to comprehend a sense of value for people, when I had long lost the sense of value for people due to your society taking away someone I treasured. So yeah, the only negativity I have is justified. I also disdain suicide so much that I call the action the cowardice it is. Why would I, someone who almost lost his best friend to suicide, want anyone at all to commit such actions? Oh, I also forgot to mention that the claims of suicide were actually proven to be false. You know why I call said actions suicide, or, suicidal actions cowardice? It's because they don't care to look at the thoughts and feelings of another, and just presume people would want them dead. Keep in mind, some people actually would, but I'm not one of them. And if people in your life want you dead, then stay the fuck alive and take the opportunity to humiliate them day by day with your own existence. I look them in the face and speak to them like an equal. I tell them that such actions are cowardly. I also tell them that if they need someone to talk to or a shoulder to cry on, I would do my best to make sure their day is a bit brighter. I digress though, because honestly, I'm even more bitter right now. Bitter of the fact that I lose fans because they're too lacking in self-awareness that the whole you're too negative quote-unquote and quote-unquote critique applies a far greater quantity to them than me. Here's the reason why I had negative reviews of games. They're bad. End of story. Crosswave, badly made. Rio Reincarnation, terribly written and structured. Atelier Ryza, phenomenal game, but dickholes proclaiming that it's the salvation of a franchise going for 20 years is the most egregious and insulting statement that one can make, that I decided that the series is overrated thanks to user reviews and critic reviews. Arc of Alchemist, terribly designed maps, a main MC more cynical and jaded of an asshole than I, which is not a good thing for the setting she's in, an easily forgettable cast, a meh OST, and a blatant Nier Automata ripoff, which was also a bad game. I even did a video on why, albeit the quality of that video is so bad itself that I can't really recommend it more than half-heartedly, so ripping off a bad game will only make a worse game. Nothing and I mean nothing about it, is good. I can't believe I need to educate people on this, but this circles back to the immaturity and idiocy of the compile art fanbase. There's a difference between I like something and something is good. You can like RWBY, for example, but there's a large variety of YouTubers who can point out so many flaws in both story and animation, while done in a variety of scenario and styles of presentation, that anybody with a functioning brain can imagine RWBY as one of the worst shows, sans Chronexia and the 8 Seals. At least RWBY has completed seasons, and the 8 Seals will never take that away from them. You can like Neptunia Victory, but I can point out nearly every single flaw in its writing that I can prove it to be bad. Again, there's this concept called a guilty pleasure. The other big reason why I say the compile art fan base is immature, again, of the non-content creators, is because they emotionally cannot handle the concept of calling a show or waifu bad. Mature people have fair discussions and debates about it. What do most of the fan base do when pressed with a fair amount of fair detail? Demonize said people for using their analytical side of their own brain and call those kinds of people toxic. This is why I say these people have no self-awareness. To be honest, with so many bad games coming out, it becomes increasingly difficult to remain a fan of compile art. Last year, compile art's biggest disappointment was Rio Reincarnation. This year, it must be Crosswave. Azur Lane, the base mobile game, has a massive following with a fan base that has around a 98% demographic that are fair and reasonable. You can actually discuss why you like Enterprise or Prince Eugen and dislike Shimikaze. So in all honesty, I find a game with next to no effort, reused assets from a different company, a hard mode that is ludicrously easy even for a newbie to Azur Lane like me, and even a lack of incentive to do hard mode over easy mode. You get the same exact EXP regardless of the mode you're in. Fuck the fact that Crosswave has horrible texture issues, because for many, they won't notice it. The big problem, other than their lack of making any characters seem interesting, considering a company that only knows how to decently write 8 main characters tops, is the fact that there's no reason to play it on any harder difficulty. This is in the most basic rule of good game design. Incentive for harder difficulties. A newbie like me shouldn't be able to blaze through a game and story like I am feeding paper and tinder to a bonfire, upgrading it to a forest fire that murders half of California. So you can imagine why I feel disgust for those who use the whole "you're too negative" critique. Very few games are games I'm willing to sit through all the way to give a chance. The reason why I did for Crosswave is because I know Azur Lane as a series has potential, just to find that Crosswave fucked it up. Did people ever, in their tiny, egocentric little brains, ask themselves why someone may have a dissatisfactory experience? Like, ever? Of fucking course not. These people with the whole "you're too negative" argument not once considered that maybe, just maybe, these negative critics are right. Fat Man Falling is right about RWBY's writing. The Floof Artist is right about RWBY's animation. And I am right about the reviewers of Ryza, thereby making me right about it being overrated, overblowing it beyond proportions, right about Crossway being nothing but a predatory cash grab, and right about Arc of Alchemist being complete garbage. I don't say negative things about things because I want to be negative, you dumb motherfuckers. I am not Young Defiant. I say negative things because things suck, and I don't want my fans to be ripped off out of their money. I buy these things so that you don't have to. I don't even expect a thank you from you guys, even though it would be nice to have, but an ad hominem attack of "you're too negative" is unnecessarily harsh. I'm not too negative. You are too stupid and egocentric to acknowledge an alternate perspective to your own. That being said, unlike most creators, I still hear these criticisms and yet found a way to make everything work out for everyone. Hence, the birth of Sarcastic Happiness Machine, where I will be so farcically positive that you will puke rainbows harder than Aqua after drinking the entire Pawtucket Brewery. Family Guy reference. I will simply give positive reviews on the stuff I like and never, ever give garbage the light of day. If I dislike something I stream or play, I'll bury it out of my channel page hardcore. If people end up asking me to review something I dislike, I'll just tell them no. With the justification of, well, people think I'm too negative, so I won't review something that I dislike, and leave it at that. Oh, and as punishment from slowly taking away my smile, from pouring my heart and soul into reviews, you don't get game footage anymore in these new creations. You get a stock image and maybe an image insert once in a while, if you behave good. Oh, and just a quick note to address, if you're wondering, if you're not trying to be too negative, why did you make 3 entire videos ripping on the Data Life trilogy then? Or asking that sarcastically. The answer is because I held a freaking poll. The poll had 2 possibilities. Either A, make my retrospective one singular video that would run somewhere around a 20-minute runtime, or B, make 3 separate videos for each game within the pack. When I wrote the script, it was after a 67% vote in favor of 3 separate videos. I gave you fuckers what you wanted, and you still don't appreciate the love and care I have for you guys. As for the top 3 disappointing games thing, that was supposed to be a 2-part bit. There was going to be a top 3 best games of 2019, which you're still getting, but again, now, without any footage. I buried the old style of reviews and retrospectives in a casket and burned it. Watch, they'll say next, "Stop being so positive, you sarcastic insult." Wah. Speaking of whiny man babies, that's a beautiful transition to the whole, oh, and I'll get to the whole politics things when I debase another group. For the anti-Sony fuckboys. See, a common misconception people will have, or rather misperception, why did I write misconception in the fucking script? People have about me, is that I either rip on the Switch solely for ripping on it, or rip on the Switch because I'm pro-Sony. All because they're small brain fools for never considering the fact that the Switch is a last-gen console, at best, trying to fill the souls of a current-gen market, or how anti-consumer the design is. Which will lead into your complaints of, well, what about any blah 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 censorship? Well, Miss Princess, maybe you should wait a bit, because I'm just about to mention it. See, there are so many complaints I have about this anti-Sony stance, but I'm about to open with a controversial statement, so trigger warnings ahead. These anti-censorship and anti-Sony people are morons. This is just the blunt truth of the matter. This isn't even me trying to be condescending. The quote-unquote message they support isn't exactly wrong and isn't what makes them an idiot, i.e. censorship is bad. What makes them wrong and stupid is literally everything else. All I need to prove it is to ask a few basic questions. And these questions are basic. What in your mind constitutes censorship? But be careful with how you pose an answer to this question. Why is it that only a certain few companies are censored? Quote unquote. If this is entirely, quote unquote, Sony's policy. Why are companies like Bandai Namco and Koei Tecmo mostly, if not entirely, free from this censorship quote unquote policy? If you don't believe that Koei Tecmo isn't affected by this policy, just look at Ryza. Why are smaller companies like Compile Heart and Idea Factor hit for making ecchi fan games, but Sword Art fucking Online gets a free pass for every single fucking SAO game? I guarantee you that if Bandai Namco released a Sword Art Online hentai ripoff on Nutaku as a video game, Sony wouldn't bet a fucking eye. It isn't even like you can use the whole excuse with Fatal Bullet, because Bandai Namco still releases a chain of DLC and update patches with new stories and CGs that are uncensored to Fatal Bullet. Also, Licorice will most likely not have this problem either. The next question is, why do you take the word of a PR representative as word of God instead of word of St. Paul at best and just pure hearsay at worst. Why do you think an appropriate response to all this is boycotting? Speaking of the last question, there's a reason why I asked this one. You're not punishing Sony by never buying from them. That's not how the chain of distribution works, you fucking dumbasses. You are never going to give Sony any hardship by not buying from them. They still retain your previous purchases, they don't allow refunds for more than 2 weeks, and many of you don't even buy from the PS Store to begin with. Meaning, you're not being hurt by Sony to begin with. You think you're on this glorious anti-censorship soapbox. But anyone with a semblance of rational thought will realize that you're actually standing atop a house of cards with shattered and jagged glass waiting to below to, chop away at your bottom bits. The anti-censorship crew doesn't even realize they've sunk lower than the pro-censorship people they hate. They operate the same authoritarian behavior as them, are equally hysterical, if not more so. They adopt the same my way or the highway mentality, and even have the same neurotic if you're not with us, you're against us mentality. Which, to be fair, I am against the anti-censorship crew. But then again, I'm also against the pro-censorship crew. I'm an anti-censorship person. As in, I'm still for the meaning of artistic liberty like the anti-censorship people are, but I actually also prioritize rational thought and calm behavior, instead of being like angry German kids smashing my PS4 just because I didn't get my intimacy mode on Senra Kagura. I also know 2 proper plans to be used to counteract these quote-unquote pro-censors, but remember, I'm too negative. Even if my plans in regards to this are inherently positive. Here's the reason why I don't support the anti-censorship crew anymore. They don't know what they're fucking talking about or doing. They're the exact same as the pro-censorship crew. And those questions I just asked above previous, they're the telltale signs of a pseudo-intellectual trying to talk to others about a socio-political topic such as censorship. That is what these people are. Because anybody who is a anti-censorship will lose any and all validity by just asking these questions. Just because of one angry gamer and raging Golden Eagle said it was Sony policy, that it is actually Sony policy. I mean, I do get why people say that. Sony's HQ is in California. California is a disgusting cesspool for various reasons. But there's one slight problem here. That's ever the more justification for people to lie. People lie. A tough concept to swallow, I know. Except for me, because I tell the truth so much to the point where it actually hinders me. But that's because I was a liar as a child and grew up and realized that lying doesn't actually work out in the real world. It's basically, in actuality, a concept of borrowed time. People lie because they can get away with it, with an ever-increasing pool of suckers who will buy into it. I mean, why wouldn't Sony lie? They live in California. I mean, they have SJWs breathing down their necks. So they can literally get away with lying to these SJWs, because the SJWs who try to censor these creations will never actually play these games anyways, so of course they're not going to fact check. But again, there's various cases of examples where fully quote-unquote uncensored games come out to be released in the modern day for Sony and PS4. To me, it sounds like you invest too heavily into media sources. The most brutal and real-life reason the anti-censorship crew is just as idiotic as the pro-censorship crew, it's because they also believe everything their chosen media sources say as if it's word of God. But in actuality, You don't actually know what goes on in these meetings. You don't know if it's Sony. You don't know if certain companies specifically have SJW's guns to their heads. You don't know if it's your local politician. You don't know if it's some rogue asshole shooting up Sony HQ like that one greasy chick shot up YouTube HQ. You don't know if Vince McMahon decided to wave his money and dick around and said no etchy games. Hyperbolic last example aside, you get my point. You know what the worst part of these fake quote-unquote anti-censorship people do? They rip on Sony, but never, ever call out Nintendo for their antics, while simultaneously sucking off Gavin Newell, while in a continuous mass circle jerk with your fellow Steam users, praising the platform as he erases 50+ of your precious lolly hentai games. I'm not a fan of lollies. I'm more of an Onesama type, you know, the Ara-Aras and the Desawas. However, lolicon hentai is legal in the United States. No company, let alone Steam, has any right to deny someone access to stuff they're legally entitled to. Lollies and shotas, whether fortunate or unfortunate, are defended by free speech. And I will always prioritize free speech, which is why I'm against the anti-censorship crew. Free speech comes with a civic responsibility of knowing what the fuck you're talking about. Most people who complain about this censorship crap don't. Most is the operative term here, but I already put out the disclaimer. So in the end, I have nothing but disdain for both sides of that coin. I'm more alongside the edge of the coin, looking around for any merit of either side, and I suggest you do the same. If you want calm, rational behavior in response to the pro-censors and not give the pro-censors ample right to say, see, look what happens when we take ecchi games from weebs. What a bunch of worthless degenerates, quote-unquote. Then I suggest you become an anti-censor. Calm and rational thought is how you beat these authoritarians. The anti-censorship crew are either a bunch of Twitter trenders, are idiots, or are people who are just propagating console wars dick measure 2.0. These things are not mutually exclusive adjectives here. For those fair and rational people who just want their content left alone, just remember this one tenet. Fair, calm, and rational response is the answer to said moral authoritarians. You don't win your ideas over by shutting the opposition down. You win your ideas over by behaving like an adult and proposing good ideas. Protesting a company when the actual facts point against doing that is not going to be considered a good idea. Particularly if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Stop playing the politician and just game like the gamer you are. I am the politician here, not you. Politics is my field, not yours. With that being said, my last bit of people to rip on are people who are anti-piracy. You may think to yourself, well, isn't piracy bad? The answer is a lot more subjective than you think it is. The truth be told, the answer is just as much of an answer as the last group of people I obliterated. You don't know. The people who are anti-piracy throw around half-facts and argumentum ad hominem. Pro-piracy people don't have a cohesive counter-response, and when these pro-piracy people actually go out of their way to contribute back to the community to counter said argumentum ad hominem, the anti-piracy crew will just hand-wave it away. The anti-piracy people have a really, really retarded ideology behind everything. The quote-unquote potential dollars lost argument. However, that to me just runs akin to that one South Park episode about YouTubers. No, not the one relating to PewDiePie. The one related to a time where you didn't actually make any real money for having a shit ton of views. I'm talking like the Chocolate Rain era stuff here. The stuff most of you Gen Zers would probably consider the quote-unquote grandpa eras of YouTube. You know this episode. It's the same episode as Butters' cover of What in the Bud. The point I'm making is simple. The whole quote-unquote money lost from piracy thing is a theoretical idea based on equal absurdity as the fundamental theoretical dollars lost. You know, that YouTube never paid to the Chocolate Rain guy, or the Numa Numa guy. It's the same base logic. Hence why I said half facts, because lying by omission is still a lie. If you don't complete your claims of fact with a full analysis by intentionally leaving it out, that's a quote-unquote lie by omission. That's why people like Mother's Basement debase people like Unique Namosaurus. The position of, or Mother's Basement position in the privateer's fleet is in jeopardy. Crunchyroll is a privateer of the same disingenuous and undeserving kind as Idea Factory International. I.e., they make money off creations that are not their own while preserving bad service, presenting bad service to their customers. But Crunchyroll is a few tiers worse than IFI because even though Rob and Zan do a piss-poor job at ad-libbing a musical note, they don't host a cringy award show with no coherent basis, answer, or algorithm, inevitably damaging the mainstream presentation and viewpoint of the anime fandom. At least IFI has their own dorky two kids doing the representation, and not fake anime fans like Xavier Woods from WWE. See, you can tell most fake anime fans from the real ones with one simple determination. Most, if not all, real anime fans find Naruto Online to be nothing more than disgusting, predatory cash grabbing. Not to mention a bad anime game. Xavier Woods, on the other hand, thinks it's good. Why wouldn't he? He's just he's never played a Compile Heart game, or any other game not named Naruto or SAO. He's just an inauthentic spokesperson so that WWE can say Vince McMahon isn't out of touch with a younger audience. That's all UpUpDownDown is as a channel. It's like Jack Black's channel. Yet all you really need to know in order to know Vince McMahon is actually out of touch is his treatment of The Fiend, the endless continued push for Roman Reigns to be champion, and the fact that Vince thinks the XFL is a good idea in 2020. So, now that the bile for these people I've held grudges for is settled, welcome to the new era of positivity, where everyone can feel so warm and safe in my reviews. You never, ever have to worry, ever again, about negativity in your reviews. Congratulations. I'll also continue to enjoy my OST uploads, my streams, and my fanfic project series is still on its way. The other secret project has to be delayed a bit because we have to secure a Miku Miku dance animator for it, but that'll eventually get taken care of as well. So enjoy the Sarcastic Happiness Machine, the OneManCast channel's equivalent of the Firefly Funhouse, and I cannot wait to see you next time.